Tonight on KGW News, a Portland chef carjacked.
Two of them went and got in my car, and one of them pulled a gun on me.
The surprising moment as the young suspects made their getaway. Then, the high-stakes fight over one of the toughest gun control laws in the country heads back to court.
Large-capacity magazines have been used in all 10 of the deadliest mass shootings.
This is about the individual right to self-defense.
But first, a homeowner's frustration.
I'm on my wit's end, really, and that's kind of why I'm selling, is I just don't want to deal with it anymore.
As one man struggles to get the street out front cleaned up. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. Irritated, angry, and disheartened. Just a few ways to describe how that neighbor is feeling, and he is hardly alone, with thousands upon thousands of complaints coming from the streets of the Rose City about RVs and campers parked illegally, creating dirty and sometimes dangerous conditions. Catherine Cook is here with the story of one Portlander who says he is ready to get out. Catherine.
David, he hopes to sell, but where is the RV that's parked in front of his home? It's been there for more than a year, will be a sticking point to potential buyers. It's a position that he doesn't think he or anyone else deserves to be in.
On the corner of Southeast 83rd and Tolman, George Collins hopes all this work will pay off.
So it's going to go on the market here, so I'm redoing the stairs and the deck boards.
To be clear, he doesn't want to sell his house.
I'm on my wit's end, really, and that's kind of why I'm selling, is I just don't want to deal with it anymore.
Collins points to the trailer illegally parked across the street. But his real problem, he says, is with the city of Portland.
I feel just abandoned by the city and their inability to function correctly.
He says for the last 9 months, he's been asking PBOT to move the trailer.
This guy's been here for over a year. I remember the day he pulled up.
Since then, Collins says the problems haven't stopped.
He bangs on his RV at random times in the day, and it wakes me up all the time. And so I'm losing sleep over it, disposes of his human excrement down the drain. When this was all real bad, there's rats I would see all the time. I've killed 3 or 4 in the last 4 or 5 months.
The man living here tells us he's a veteran.
As soon as I get my pension, I'm out of here. I'm not part of this, okay? So don't pigeonhole me with all these drug addicts. You know, I don't do that.
Problems like this are citywide, though this part of Southeast Portland has seen quite a bit. Last month, neighbors on Southeast 83rd and Franklin complained after a line of trailers took up residence along the narrow dead-end street.
We've seen so far a garbage truck and a school bus try and get through, and they just had to turn around and go back.
Now, 3 weeks later, the trailers are gone. A little over a week ago, Collins says a crew with the city's impact reduction program posted this illegal campsite notice near the trailer on his street. They also helped clean up some of the mess, which they've done before. What Collins says he really wants is for PBOT to tow it.
And the city sees it and is just not doing anything about it.
KGW reached out to PBOT. A spokesperson confirmed they received reports about the RV and offered this statement. It said in part, with thousands of reports each year about people living in a vehicle in the public right-of-way, we are not able to respond to each person who reports a concern. They say they prioritize the situations which raise the highest risk to public safety and livability. For now, Collins keeps putting in the work and paying his taxes. He hopes soon they'll be going into a different county's coffers.
It shouldn't be this hard.
Collins says a city employee told him a crew will return to his house in 2 to 3 weeks to once again assess the situation. He says he's not sure what that means, but he hopes that assessment will finally lead to action. David.
Yeah, maybe with that a bit of freedom to move forward there. One can hope. Thanks so much, Catherine. Well, developing tonight, the search is on for the people recorded on video of carjacking a Portland chef and restaurant owner. You can see him running out of the bushes in the middle as he confronts what appears to be 5 suspects. One of them, the victim says, pointed a gun at him. The video, which runs for over a minute, shows what appears to be essentially uncoordinated chaos. The suspects scrambling in and out of his vehicle on the left side there until they eventually decide it is time to go. They pile into the vehicle, and then this haphazardly crashed the car they're stealing into their own car before speeding off. This was at Southeast 135th and Division last Thursday night. The victim, Cameron Dunlap, owns Morcello Restaurant. He says all the suspects appear to be maybe 20 or under, and despite that terrifying encounter, he says he feels sympathetic.
I just hope that I get my car back. I hope that I can continue doing what I do, and I don't really want anybody to have to go to jail. I've been to jail and it sucks, so I wouldn't put that on those kids. That would ruin their lives.
So far, no arrests have been made. Dunlap says it was hard to make out any specific details about the suspects, only that they were all wearing black hoodies or tracksuits. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, Michigan State University has told suspended head football coach Mel Tucker he will be fired with cause for alleged sexual misconduct. It involves Oregon activist and rape survivor Brenda Tracy. Now, Tracy speaks to college athletic programs around the country. She described a working relationship with Tucker that became a friendship. Tracy says Tucker made romantic advances, and according to court documents, Tucker admitted to investigators he touched himself while on the phone with Tracy last year. He claimed it was consensual phone sex. Tracy says it was most certainly not consensual. Tucker has 7 days to appeal that termination. Tonight, a Salem jeweler has been arrested accused of stealing gemstones and other pieces from customers. Detectives say Douglas Gamble, the owner of Timeless Jeweler, may have stolen as much as $250,000 worth of goods. In some cases, victims reported real diamonds were swapped out with synthetic stones. Other customers said they never got back the pieces they brought in to be repaired. The store abruptly closed a year ago. And a Hillsborough man has been found guilty in connection with the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. A federal jury convicting 65-year-old Reed Christensen on 8 charges. According to prosecutors, the veteran and former Intel employee removed metal bike rack barriers that were protecting the building. Then, after being pepper sprayed, they say Christensen charged several officers and punched and pushed them. He's one of several people from our area now convicted for their roles in the attack on the Capitol. Tonight, gun control is back in the headlines with a judge in Oregon's Harney County hearing testimony to decide whether a voter-approved measure he put on pause can go into effect. It is a case those watching closely say will likely end up all the way at the U.S. Supreme Court. Blair Best walks us through what to expect.
State and federal lawsuits have stopped Measure 114 from going into effect ever since voters passed it back in November. The big question, is it constitutional or not? A federal judge ruled that it is, but now it's up to a Harney County judge to decide. And that's what this week's trial is all about.
In November, the people of Oregon passed the Reduction of Gun Violence Act.
It's one of the toughest gun control laws in the nation. Measure 114 requires people to have a permit, a criminal background check, and take a training course in order to buy a gun. It also bans high-capacity magazines holding more than 10 rounds. It narrowly passed Oregon voters back in November.
This severely inhibits Oregonians from engaging in defense from imminent harm.
Large capacity magazines increase casualties by allowing a shooter to continue firing a weapon for long periods of time.
The controversial measure has been on hold since November. State and federal lawsuits over its constitutionality have stopped it from going into effect. In July, a federal court judge ruled it was in fact constitutional, but an Oregon lawsuit in Harney County is still holding things up. That suit argues the law violates part of the Oregon Constitution that deals with the right to bear arms. This week's trial is meant to answer that question.
Plaintiffs contend that ballot measure 114 represents the most significant threat to that right Oregonians have faced in nearly 165 years.
Supporters of Measure 114 are also speaking up.
Gun violence is preventable. Common sense policies like Measure 114 save lives.
They argue the law will help curb gun violence and encourage gun safety.
Pop, 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 pop.
That's people like Jesse Quack, a Portland author who was shot in the eye 2 months ago while leaving a North Portland street fair.
I had just finished up a long day selling books at the Mississippi Street Fair, and as another author, my friend Mark, and I were leaving, The car in front of us opened up fire, and I was struck by crossfire from this drive-by shooting in my left eye.
The Harney County judge has barred voices like hers from the courtroom this week. He tells the Oregonian that type of evidence is outside the scope of his work, since he will only be making a decision on if the measure, as written, is constitutional, not how it will be implemented.
The trial was scheduled to last 6 days, but since the judge eliminated some of that testimony, it may end sooner. We also want to point out the federal judge that ruled it constitutional earlier this summer did listen to the type of testimony that's been barred from this trial. Blair Best, KGW News.
We'll keep you posted there. More local healthcare workers are threatening to strike if they do not get better contracts. Thousands of nurses who work for OHSU rallied in Portland today following a vote to authorize a strike. Now, that does not guarantee a strike, and if nurses did walk, they'd have to give the hospital 10 days notice. Both sides have been working on a new contract for some 9 months now. Many nurses say they are overwhelmed and are demanding the hospital hire more people.
If I have to spend my entire night just trying to keep people alive, I don't get to spend time with the patient in a meaningful way. I don't get to spend time and have that emotional connection.
In a statement, OHSU said they take the possibility of a strike seriously and hope it can be avoided. They said right now they are offering a wage increase of 15% the first year of the deal, followed by another 5% in the last 2 years of the contract. Meanwhile, the union representing certain Kaiser healthcare workers is set to return to the bargaining table. Meetings are scheduled for Thursday and Friday. Its members, by the way, have already authorized a strike. The SEIU contract expires at the end of the month. That is the union representing workers like nursing assistants and surgical technicians. On top of that, the UFCW, another union that represents imaging and pharmacy workers at Kaiser, announced its members have also voted to authorize a strike.